begin joining the CBIO Collaborative, it may be helpful for you to know, and I think, I don't know at the department level, but I certainly know at Aldecano Gonzalo's level, he is very interested. And I actually didn't explain to him, when you become you don't have to, it's a very simple application process. But you don't have to, once a program, you only have to apply for one, you can't apply more than one program right from the start, but if one program applies and becomes a CBIO program, then every other program in that institution that becomes, is a CBIO program. You don't go through the evaluation process again, okay? So many schools started with one program and are now 3 or 4. Some started, I think Singapore started, and all of the programs were at the same point. And I am always sad to give the example of MIT, that after 11 years, we still have one CBIO program at MIT, the one we started with. But now that's not to say, to be fair, that's not to say that no other engineering programs have redesigned their curriculum. They just cannot politically call it CBIO because that belongs to them. They don't want to do what aerospace is doing. They need to, not invented here syndrome, So they have to invent their own. But anyway, so we can look at it, and that's what that last handout is, the standards, and then that form is the kind of program evaluation that we do if you're a CBIO program. And it's a question of looking at the beginning and then periodically, once a year, once every 2 years, at are you meeting the CBIOs? Are you in compliance with the CBIO standards? And what we just do, we've had the standards since 2004. And just this past year, 2010, I'm happy with this, we developed rubrics. We had the standards, we had one general rubric. And as we began to use it, it didn't fit all of the standards. So each standard has its own rubric, and it's now in the document of the standards. And so it's a question of looking at what the standard means, what the rubric is, and giving yourself a rating. And the standards are going to look very familiar. It's what we've been talking about all week. Standard 1, the context. Standard 2, learning outcomes. Standard 3, the integrated curriculum. Standard 4, the first year courses. Standard 5, design build experiences. Standard 6, the workspaces. Then with Standard 7, which is always a difficult one to explain, it's integrated teaching. So you have the integrated curriculum, which means those learning outcomes appear in the curriculum. And integrated teaching means that now those outcomes become part of your teaching. Then Standard 8, active and experiential learning. Standards 9 and 10, faculty development, learning outcomes, faculty development of teaching skills. Standard 11, learning assessment, and Standard 12, program evaluation. That's what we did this week. So let's start with some questions. These were your little notes. Let's return to the questions and expectations. Again, if we've answered the question, cross it off your list. Okay, and I see that many of you have lost your list. That's right. Or we'll just assume we answered all the questions, so I didn't bring my list. Which questions would you like to discuss now? And have your expectations been met? Oh, okay, I put it here. And if you would like me to respond to any of the questions, write your email address. I have your email address, so if you give me your name on the question sheet and leave it with me. But let's take a few questions now. first of all, let me ask, did we answer some questions this week?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
okay. So lots of questions, so this is good. So are there questions that remain, or some of you may want to think about and say, I'm sure next week I'm going to have a question. And if you do, next week have a question, just email me.
I have a question about yesterday rubrics. We saw some examples, but you don't have like a value for each question. So if you want to use it for grading, and you put this, or this is the question, the rubric that you show to the students, but you don't show them the weight of every single point.
No, you would show them, you would want to show them how you graded it. And they need to have an understanding of how it's graded. But that's a very good question, because we didn't talk about how do you get from the rubric to the grade. And unfortunately, you have to do that. Now, sometimes what I do, keep in mind the kind of data you're collecting, so that even if you call it 1, 2, 3, 4, this is not a continuous scale. So there really isn't a 1.679. Okay? So you want to be careful about, if I have a rubric like that, I never, count all of them and then average them and come with a grade. Okay? Even though I might say, all right, fair, good, or poor, fair, good.